Hello everyone, Sunset.Tomb. Welcome to another mod overview, this time on Gravekeeper. A mod that simply adds in the ability for you to have a death chest upon taking damage, and obviously it's a safe place to keep your loot, but you also have exclusive access to its contents for a limited time. Afterwards, anyone can loot it with a simple right click, and the loot is placed back to their original slot. I assume for, say, the user that originally had them. It might be the same for other players as well, but it obviously depends on what's in their inventory, and I'll probably just put it elsewhere. Other than that though, certain other features include protection, informative, compatibility, integration, slot restore, smart position, backup, admin friendly, customization, and balanced. So you've got only you can open your grave, nothing will break it. For a limited time, you can sneak right click to get details on the grave, support for certain other mods, soul binding items also compatible. Your loot is placed back to its original slots in your inventory, so you have to keep shifting them back around. It's placed in a safe place, preferably inside of the original. So you died in a lava lake, for example, it'll move it onto the surface. Otherwise, you've got it where it's saved on disk upon death, so for backup reasons. You can restore it from a simple command, simply, which is inspired by Block's sort of approach to such a thing, I assume. With its grave, I assume. Creative players can't collect content with right-clicking, they need to break the grave. This is just for certain things. You've got configuration if you want, and you've got customization of soulbound enchantments. So, yeah. So we'll take a look. Whoops. So we want to go grave, and you've got pretty much just a death certificate, and you've got a death chest, which obviously have no recipes or anything, because they're not supposed to. So if we sneak right click, we can see that there's one item, and for another few hours, it'll pretty much be a grave that just sits there. We can right click it, obviously before it's too late, and only a survival player can recover these items. So if we right click, I assume I actually have to break it, so that's why. No, actually, no, okay, it's because of survival, so that's why. So that's the case there. And we don't really need that because it's going to interfere. That's from a different mod, of course. Now, if we do this in creative, can we actually still have it where it's still survival related? Otherwise, you've got the actual message in chat saying in said world name, depending on what you've actually named it, and at the following coordinates you can find your grave easily. So if you want to teleport back, or you want to run all the way back, you can. We can sneak right click, and it'll still say that we need a survival player. So even if you're in creative, it still is survival relevant. So we can do that and get our stuff back. I assume the slowness effect is just a sort of benefit of getting your stuff back for a certain period of time, and then eventually removes it. But yeah, other than that, obviously the rest is all the support, so I'm not going to be able to cover that. So you can right click to get your grave, and the rest will probably be configs, I'd say, but anything I can cover of the mod at least, because I don't have any other players to sort of demonstrate this with. But obviously other situations can apply, of course, if they try to get your stuff and so on. There is the death certificate though, which I assume maybe you could use to actually get it back. I'll actually test that though. So we'll just say, and I assume a grave is not also going to appear if you don't have a item. No, so if there's nothing there, then it's not going to do anything, and that's just going to sit there. Alright, so we just say have a death certificate on us, for example, which we happen to not use, for example. I assume we can use a death certificate if it's not going to remove it because of the other mod I have. Okay, so that's going to allow you to get access to those again. So I assume if you're an admin, or maybe another player or something like that, you can get access to it. or maybe it's a way of having it similar to, say, if you have a key and you're unlocking a chest or some sort of other logic, then of course you can, you know, use it on that and you can get your stuff back from your grave, I assume. So that's a way, instead of it just being, oh, okay, I'll just sneak and click and obviously you can get it. There's nothing there for that one though. Otherwise, there's a bunch of config options you can tweak. So there's obviously certain other mod support ones for Twilight Forest, depending on obviously the level of the Charm of Keeping that you are wanting to set this for. So there's that. You've got debug logs if you want to enable or disable that. You've got time in seconds after which other players will be able to collect someone's grave. Use 0 to have an instant expiration, and otherwise anyone is able to access it. Use -1 or lower to remove expiration, and only the owner will be able to pick up the grave. And obviously the timer is that, which was pretty much equivalent to 2 hours or so for what I had. So yeah. Otherwise, you've got where the chest should still spawn when keep inventory is enabled. So obviously you can ignore or enable the possibility of that, which obviously keep inventory does sort of prevent graves from working. But there is a consideration for that game rule and using alongside the mod. You've got the ability to define which inventories are enabled and in which order they are processed. Missing mods are ignored when creating a grave. Uses to adjust soulbind priority and so on. Traveler's backpacks are only saved if you disable block placement and so on. So, yeah, so I don't know about maybe backpack mods and if it would say count any of those in this, because I'm assuming this is mostly to do with like any mod specific or just your typical inventory. Obviously, and where it puts things, which is fair enough, but I'm assuming if this were to be the case of, say, like with Traveler's Backpack, we saved if, okay, so I'm assuming that's just the Traveler's Backpack itself, rather than say, like, oh, okay, the content's inside my Traveler's Backpack, for example, or say other backpack mods of, like, I want all my stuff that was in here to still be the same, compared to, like, say, a removal of, the following. So, yeah. Okay, and the poison's getting me, so I assume the slowness and poison is part of a different mod. There we go. Otherwise, we've got grave location, which is for pretty much certain things like altitude. So, let's see, so you've got ones for vertically, horizontally, spawning in a dimension, if they have no bed sets, using, okay, use a bed or spawn location when death happens with y below this value. Use either negative or positive 1000 or higher to force permanently. We first check bed in current dimension, then the bed spawn dimension. Okay, so you can have certain consideration of radiuses in which it searches for a free spot to put things. So say if you took damage in lava or some other certain death situation, then you can set exactly in what range it will be able to move your grave to a more safer place. So there's that. Obviously if you don't have a bed in said dimension or otherwise, or if you don't have a bed, it'll set it in a certain dimension that you probably will last in. And obviously in the Nether and End you can't, and maybe some modded dimensions. But yeah, obviously, depending, of course, it'll try and put a grave in that dimension, of course. Either I guess in just one spot, so I can see respawn echo. But obviously other modded methods that can do similar could also be useful in that case. Otherwise, you've got soulbound specific ones, which allows you to set the amount of soulbound items that should be kept in a player's inventory. And there's no actual enchantment for soulbound, is there? No, it doesn't add one. Okay, just wanted to make sure, because sometimes it doesn't show certain stuff, like spawn extra enchantment books, potions sometimes. So yeah, you've got that. Otherwise, you've got the ability to enable workaround for soul binding mods that don't support modded inventories. So for example, such and such, and those for consideration. So you can move soulbound items to a main inventory upon it, you obviously accessing the grave, and you've got the ability to set the list of enchantment names that are considered soulbinding. So if you've got soulbound from rolling mods, so it's that, not that it adds its own. And you've got a list of MBT booleans that are considered as soulbinding when set to true. So you've got a bunch of MBT considerations as well, if you want to use those running. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.